every every individual people, each one of us, the people, have a right under the Oregon Constitution, Article 1, Section 26, to petition government for redress, petition our representatives for redress of grievance.
So talk to me about telephonic harassment. Telephonic harassment was originally created when? Around?
In Oregon, it was in 1987. There was a guy named Ray who got arrested for making nasty comments on a telephone call, and he went to court, and it ended up going up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said we can't find this guy guilty because he was using protected speech. But maybe if you guys had a law that prohibited trespassing on a telephone line, we could have done something. And so they rewrote this harassment law and got telephonic harassment. And it's at ORS 166.090.
But the government, you have the right to.
Oh yeah, government is not part of telephonic harassment. Every individual people, each one of us, the people, have a right under the Oregon Constitution, Article 1, Section 26, to petition government for redress, petition our representatives for redress of grievance. So it doesn't apply to government. It only applies between the people.
But they're using it against you.
And they misconstrued the law to justify their actions against me, yeah.
And so they arrested you for telephonic harassment. They kept you in jail for like just over 21 days. They put you on probation for how long?
I think it was 2 years.
What was the stipulations of the probation?
They didn't want to see me. I couldn't come to Washington County.
But you already had you already had this crap with Kate Brown, with the ridiculous. It's a stalking order, but there are times when you call and people say to you, "We have a restraining order." So I mean, it's like it's a stalking order, right?
Kate Brown's was a stalking order.
Yeah. And that stops you from going to the state government, the capital. And now you've got this.
But they all heard about it. I mean, see, she got the stalking order in 2004, and then in 2005, she talked to the legislative administrator, and he wrote and said, "You can't come to the Capitol. You can't call anybody here, or we're going to arrest you." That was 2005. So when that happened, everybody else thought, well, if they did it, we can do it too. And so they all...
And you were arrested in 2006?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And so, okay, you get this probation that lasts 2 years, but you're still on this mission. You're still...
Right, and I have to pick my battles. I didn't want to go to the Court of Appeals. I felt like, wow, I'm getting close. These people are really fucking up. They're really, sticking their necks in a noose. And so I kept moving forward. I didn't look back, didn't file an appeal. And the next year I got arrested again in Marion County for telephonic harassment, telephonically harassing state legislators.
Because they saw that it worked over here, so maybe they can get you to stop calling them?
No, this was because Brown asked the legislative administrator to ban me from the Capitol. And that's what prompted Washington County to do that. But now I'm calling a state legislator, and the ban from the Capitol and the ban from talking to any legislator or their staff, which later turned into wherever they may be in Oregon, was in effect. There was no paperwork. There was nothing. They didn't, I got this letter by fax initially in the office, and I wrote back. The second page of that letter had a lot of white space, and I wrote back, well, what about the due process? What about all the stuff that's supposed to happen before you get to write this letter? And I faxed it back within probably 2 or 3 minutes, just long enough to write it out, fax it right back. And then I got another one, and he says, hire an attorney and he'll help you figure it out. No. Why don't you tell me? Why don't you tell me what law you're going by? What law allows you to do this?
And this fax that you got is saying what? What's it telling you?
They're saying don't come to the Capitol because a tenant in the building has a stalking order against you. And don't call any legislators or their staff. And then eventually, there were 4 or 5 different legislative administrators between the first one and the current one, and they all said, but each time it got a little stiffer, and eventually it said, don't call any legislator or their staff wherever they may be in Oregon, meaning when it's not a legislative session, don't call them in their district offices.
And when you were making these phone calls, you were calling and asking what?
I'm saying, I want to see this law that everybody's talking about. Where's this law that says everybody has to have a driver license? And of course, I already knew there wasn't a law, and I just wanted to find somebody who was willing to kick the system in the face and say there's no law. But I couldn't find anybody else.
These people wanted to stop you. They wanted you to shut up.
Indeed, they do. They still want me to shut up.
Right.
And I see their weak spot. No one in their right mind would continue to throw somebody in jail without probable cause unless they're desperate. They are desperate. And the first time was, I got arrested in 2007. It went for the better part of a year, the proceedings, and I didn't even get to the point of entering a plea. The court in Marion County, the circuit court, the presiding court judge, the honcho of the whole court, was assigned to my case. Pretty radical for a Class B misdemeanor. And she eventually, after some months, probably 4 or 5 months, handed the case over to another guy. And no, it was longer than that. She probably had me 6 or 7 months. But this other guy, he wants to know, well, you haven't even entered a plea yet, so how do you plead? And I said, well, I'll plead guilty. I will plead guilty if I can see the law that says everybody has to title and then register their vehicles and then have to get a driver license. If I can see that law, I'll plead guilty.
And what year is this?
That's 2007 and 8. 8 was when he got appointed.
And what county are you in?
Marion County.
Marion County. And you were arrested, and this is your third arrest? Or second arrest?
Second.
This is your second arrest. And you're talking to, what was the judge's name?
The guy, well, the first one, let me see, the presiding court judge was, I can almost remember her name, but the guy that ended up hearing the case, or hearing my plea, his name was Lynn Ashcroft.
Okay. And so you tell him.
I'm real close to remembering her name.
It's okay. It'll come to you. And so you tell the judge, say it again, I will be willing to plead guilty If
I can see this law that says everybody has to title their vehicle and then register it and then get a driver license. And he goes, well, that's a little ridiculous, don't you think? I go, indeed it is. It is ridiculous, but that's what I'm willing to do. I just want to see that law. And the reason it was relevant to the proceedings is because that's what I was talking to the person I called about, was this law. And so he goes, well, why don't you just plead guilty to one count? I was charged with multiple counts of telephonically harassing several legislators, and I'll help you find the law. I said, fine, that's great. Who are you going to get to help us? He said, I'll talk to the Attorney General. Okay, great. Which one? I said, when you call the Attorney General's office, there's at least 250 attorneys over there. So who are you going to get? Your choice, my choice. Thank you. I'll choose Peter D. Shepard, the Chief Deputy Attorney General. He goes, yeah, Peter's a good man. Let's talk to Peter about it. And I knew I already had corresponded with the Chief Deputy Attorney General. And I knew from having corresponded and got his letter back that he couldn't change horses in midstream. And he had already told me, I said, I want to see the law that requires everybody to have a driver license. And he wrote back and he said, the public record law does not require a public body to create a public record just to fulfill your request. I go, great. That means you don't have one. Thank you. And so I knew he could not change his position because he'd already put it in writing. But the judge didn't know that. So
it's just like a good attorney. They never ask questions they don't already have the answers to.
Yeah. So anyway, it took about a month for, and the judge said, you can even write the letter. I couldn't write the letter to make sure that I get what I'm looking for, you know. And I said, that's fine, thank you. So I wrote the letter. He put his cover letter on top of it and sent it to Peter. And sure enough, Peter wrote back.
But you're in jail this whole time, right?
No, no,
they let you out this time? Okay.
Yeah, I'm traveling back and forth between Portland and Salem to go to these events. Oh, and this is such a huge event. One of the measures of how huge this event is, not only did I have this, the presiding court judge of the whole courthouse as my first judge, but she said, I'm going to appoint a capital case attorney to represent you. You know, somebody that handles murder charges.
Wow.
And I go, okay. And he stood back, and there was not much that he could do. He had never dealt with anybody who had pled demurrer, and that was, I said, I'm willing to plead guilty if I can see this law. And he didn't know there was no law. He's standing back watching this whole thing, and his eyes are getting big. And
this communication between you and the judge?
No, the attorney, my capital case attorney.
He's standing back watching you communicate with the judge.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
And so
you write this letter and you send it into the Attorney General's office. And the
Attorney General's office, Peter Shepard, writes back about 32 days later, a month later, and on the 15th of December of 2008. And you guys can get this letter. All you need to do is write to the Attorney General's office for the state of Oregon and ask for it. It's a public record. All those records are public records.
Or it should be in your court case, too, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it'll be in the court case, too.
Should be.
Except I don't remember the court case. I can't quote the court case. But it was the 2007 court case that ended in 2008. Anyway, he said those two laws, and he cited the laws, the titling law and the registration law. Those laws are, quote, irrelevant to the general public. On the second page, he wrote it, and he said, normally I don't give legal advice. I don't consult with people, but you're the judge, so you're my boss, and I have to respect your request. And it was the judge's cover letter over my letter that he was responding to. He actually sent it to the judge, and on the second page, at the top of the page, here it is. Those two laws don't exist, or are irrelevant for the general public.
And his position was what again? His position at the Attorney General's office was deputy?
Those two, chief deputy. He was the guy closest to the Attorney General.
Okay. Chief deputy, and his name was again?
Peter D. Shepard.
Peter D. Shepard.
And I'd been writing to him for some time. I wrote to him, I think the first time I wrote to him was probably about 2005, a couple years before. So I knew that he could not change his course in midstream.
So the judge gets this letter.
And the case is dismissed.
And that was in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
But you're still on a mission.
I'm still on a mission. Yes, I'm still trying to get. Although what I should do, or should have done, or could have done at that point, is publish this letter and my letter asking for his answer. But I didn't do that. I just wanted to have somebody, it shouldn't be on a 2-page letter. You know, it shouldn't be concealed on the second page. But it was, and I kept on going. 2012, I was arrested again.
What were you doing in 2012? You and a friend were going to the Capitol?
I was hiding out at a friend's place because I knew that the heat was getting really warm, and so I was hiding, laying low anyway.
Who were you communicating with to make you feel that way? Like, you kept calling
legislators,
you kept trying to,
county officials, the city of Portland, any and everybody in Oregon who might
be willing to do the right thing.
Yeah.
You're looking for somebody within government to do the right thing.
Uh-huh.
And you're presenting them with some information that you've discovered, and you're basically asking for help to confirm this, because you already know.
I want it on letterhead. Yeah, I want a letterhead document that says there's no requirement of a driver license for most people.